Welcome to our first Traveling Thursday. My name is Petra. I'm the owner of Nautilus Dive Adventures, and we're excited that you're joining us tonight for this first of what we're hoping will be many different presentations. We had this idea a few weeks ago when we were training with Mike from Nautilus, and we all from Flying Sea Dive Adventures have the travel bug, and at this time of year, we normally would be making a lot of arrangements, and so we thought we're probably not the only ones that have the travel bug, and so why not inspire more people and just bring information as much as we can. So here we are, the first of what hopefully is going to be a number of Traveling Thursdays throughout the winter. So before I get any further, you see 4 faces on the screen here. I just want to introduce some of our staff. The one with half the mask here, that is Arlene. Familiar to many of you, Arlene is our group or coordinator. And then we have Irene, Irene Wave. Irene is our manager, and I will introduce Mike a little bit later. So those are part of our staff, and I will share my screen now and just give you a little bit more information to get started. So like I said, the first of several Traveling Thursdays that we're hoping to do. Flying Sea Dive Adventures. Let me introduce you to us a little bit for those of you who do not know who we are. We are a dive travel company, have been in business since 1997, and combined with our staff have over 70 years of experience, combined experience. The company was founded in 1997, so it's over 20 years old. Actually, in a year and a bit, we will be preparing for our 25th anniversary. Dive travel is all that we do, not 24/7, but 5 days a week. And we represent over 40 destinations, 100 plus resorts, 100 plus liveaboards worldwide. We are IATA appointed. That means we can issue our own tickets, which is a huge advantage as well. And we arrange group trips as well as trips for individuals. And many of you have been on one or the other trip with us. What I would love to do, a couple of housekeeping items before I go any further. We have muted all of you, and if you do have a question, feel free to type that in the chat. We will have an opportunity at the end of the presentation to answer some of your questions if we have the answers to them. The presentation will last about 45 minutes, I believe, and some of you are on here, probably be honest, because of the prize that we're giving away, but you have to stay on it till the end. And then we will have a draw. Here's a picture of the entire staff. As we have right now, you've met Irene and Arlene just recently. Julie is our accountant, which you will likely not have much encounters with. And then Edina, one of our group coordinators, Michelle, she handles individual bookings, and here myself, Petra. So with that, I would like to introduce Mike from Nautilus Liveaboards. Mike Lever is actually the president of Nautilus Liveaboards, which was founded in 1992. Originally a liveaboard company here in BC and also operating in Alaska, and their headquarters, their office actually is still here just outside of Vancouver, about half an hour away from our office. They now specialize in big animal encounters in Baja, Mexico. And Mike also created the Nautilus Lifeline, which many of you will be familiar with, reinforcing their commitment to safety. And both Socorro and Guadalupe conservation funds were also founded by Nautilus. So with that, Mike, I'm going to give you control.
I am coming to you from beautiful Cabo San Lucas. I had a wonderful plan to be up in the wheelhouse and with the lights of Cabo behind me, but unfortunately our crew is painting the upper deck, so they said I couldn't go there. And then my plan was to go up on the bow so I could have the lights of Cabo San Lucas behind me, but unfortunately they're washing the deck there and all the party boats are here making all their noise, so you're just going to have to put up with me inside. Thank you very much to everybody who has done a trip with us, and thank you very much to everybody for coming on board the presentation tonight. I will keep it short, sweet, and make sure I leave time for questions at the end. These days, we specialize in Baja California, known as Baja, Mexico. And we have our big liveaboards. Tonight, I'm going to concentrate on just some of the iconic big animals. Why in the world would you want to get in the cage and dive with a great white shark, Socorro giant mantas, and the amazing whales of San Ignacio Lagoon, where 45-foot whales swim up to be petted and stroked and kissed, and it's entirely on their terms. There's nowhere else in the world you can do that. We offer a wide range of products. We recently purchased and took over Baja Expeditions, founded in 1974, which gives us a whole stack of new products from sea kayaking, glamping, eco camps. We have a big base in La Paz, and we swim with whale sharks. And we do Cabo Pulmo and Magdalena Bay. We do all this super cool stuff. So my first topic for tonight is Guadalupe Island. There we go. Okay. Guadalupe Island is located off the coast of Mexico. It's a one-day sail from Ensenada, and it has the best white shark diving on the planet. We have identified 366 different great white sharks in the bay that we dive in. And if you think about it for a sec, a great white shark, an average one, maybe 14 feet. And if you look around you right now, the room you're in, and you figure how big 14 feet is, it's a pretty decent sized fish. The really big ones, 18 to 19 feet. So I'm going to open with a short video and then explain why I think is the best shark diving on the planet, and actually go into some of the biology and the behavior of these animals, which I think is just really interesting. If we can go ahead and play the video.
You're gonna feel when you start going down, the first thing you're gonna feel actually is the pressure in your ears. So what you're gonna do, you can put up your mask for now and hold it.
I am the ocean's greatest fright, feared for my strength, my speed and might. Millions of years I have stood tall. I am the one to rule them all.
Carcharodon carcharias, the great white shark. A name that needs no further explanation. A synonym for fascination, intrigue, fear. Being more than 400 million years old, this large mackerel shark can be found around the world in all coastal and offshore waters with temperatures between 12 and 24 degrees Celsius. And yet, one particular place stands out. Far off the coast of Mexico, an ancient volcanic island rises from the deep waters of the Pacific. A barren and rocky landscape with deep trenches and steep cliffs. This is the island of Guadalupe. an abundance of elephant seals, California sea lions and Guadalupe fur seals. This mysterious island has become the best place in the world to observe great white sharks. The main reason for this is its crystal clear and calm waters, but even more so, the great numbers of sharks which can be seen here between the month of June through December. Guadalupe fur seals and elephant seals were almost wiped out by irresponsible human hunting practices in the 19th century, but they rebounded to healthy-sized populations from tiny groups of survivors. Great whites can reach lengths of more than 20 feet and can weigh in excess of 5,000 pounds. They have been tracked in depth deeper than 4,000 feet beneath the ocean's surface. Mighty numbers for a mighty animal. And yet, seeing them, especially for the first time, in their natural habitat has provoked a realization in almost every single person Nautilus Liveaboard ever had on board during those expeditions. And the realization is that this animal has been greatly misunderstood and misjudged for the longest time. That it has been falsely depicted as an evil and cold-blooded killing machine of humans. Nothing could be further from the truth. For the majority of their time, great white sharks move slowly and calmly through the water. They almost never show any aggression towards divers in the cages. They just do what great whites do. They all have unique personalities, which you grow very accustomed to after you have spent some time with them. As your fear for the animal diminishes, your understanding and respect for it grows at the same time. This newly gained understanding effectively helps to improve the overall image of this amazing and powerful apex predator. After you have completed a great white trip aboard one of our vessels, you will certainly see those animals with different eyes. That is not to say they should be taken lightly. When they do strike, they do it with an astonishing explosiveness, which makes it clear that you don't want to stay in their way when they are in hunting mode. The white underside and grayish topside of their bodies produce a surprisingly efficient camouflage effect when looking at them from below or above respectively. Another reason why they have become such successful hunters. Looking a great white shark directly in its eye will deeply touch every person. In fact, its eyes are not entirely black, as they are often described, but also show traces of blue. The magnitude of an encounter with a famous great white shark is something which is hard to describe, but one thing we know as a fact. It will change the way you see sharks in general. It will make you a more educated and humble human being. Getting to know great whites is a deeply rewarding experience. There are many things out there greater than us, and the great white shark surely is one of them.
I'm okay, but I guess it depends on where people are as well. So
Okay.
just go ahead.
Yeah, that's all the way from Cabo San Lucas. So I think I hope that the way that we wrote the video up answers a lot of the background questions on these trips. To me, there's three big questions still to be answered tonight. One is this dangerous? And my answer is, hell yeah, these are great white sharks. It's very, very dangerous. But safety is what we live by and what we do. And you have to have your wits about you and follow what the dive masters say. We've been doing this for a long time. And while it's dangerous, it's also scary. It's an amazingly emotional and powerful experience, which is the second question that I think needs to be answered is, why in the world, if I'm a diver, would I get in a cage to see sharks? And I completely understand that because I felt the same way before we ever started at Guadalupe 17 or 18 years ago. And I thought it would be boring. I thought that, you sit in a cage, and if I'm lucky, 1 or 2 sharks might swim past. And I thought, man, I'm a diver. This is not what I want to do. But I had my arm twisted into taking the boat there for 2 trips. And the power, the charisma, the intelligence of these animals is really something. But there's also, and this will surprise a lot of people, a very deep connection with the animals. These animals look at you and they know you and they see you. And people say, well, that's crazy. How can that be with a white shark? Well, it's no different than your dog. When your dog looks at you, you know, there's communication going on, and these animals are no different. The people come out of the water crying because how the emotion with them. We see so many sharks, it's not boring. Every year, with the heavy protection that we've worked with the government of Mexico for many years, and it's become a very, very protected biosphere reserve with many regulations and environmental impact assessments and so on. We used to see sharks, you know, 1 day, 2 days out of 3, and it would be good. Not during the virus year, but the previous year, we had trips where we counted over 50 different animals over 3 days of being in the cages. We've seen up to 12 sharks. That's 12 great white sharks circling around the boats in 125 or 150 foot visibility. It's common to see 2 or 3 sharks. In the last season that we operated there, it was very rare to go in the water and not see sharks. It's thrilling, it's emotional, it is powerful, it's a connection with the animals. It's like going on safari in Africa and being right next to the animals. The third, next slide, please. Count how many sharks. Just in this one picture, we've got 3. What happens is that the males show up in the spring, and they're jockeying for position. They're jockeying for dominance. What you're actually seeing here is paralleling behavior where the males will swim next to each other, and the dominant shark is typically the largest shark, and the less dominant shark will peel off. The problems that we've had with sharks taking bait and so on is typically the younger sharks, which get pushed out of the way by the big guys, and they just kind of sneak in and take what they can. In August, more or less, más o menos, as we say in Mexico, the females start showing up, and the big breeding females, can we go to the next slide, please? The reproductively successful females show up in usually the end of September, October, November. That's when the mating happens. The big mamas, as we call them, are huge. They're 18 feet, maybe 19 feet, 6 meters long. And they are twice the weight, twice the size of a 14-foot shark. When you see these sharks, it's very, very impressive. And the males at this point, they're not around so much, and they're not doing the aggressive, rowdy behavior. At that point, it's all sorted out. The dominant males are mating with the females. Next slide, please. So there's seasonality to Guadalupe. There's actually, what this shows is satellite tags that was done on a project a number of years ago. And I have to tell you, I was absolutely dead set against this project. I hated what they were doing, which was pulling the sharks out of the water on a lift and pumping water through their mouths or through the gills, and drilling a hole in their dorsal fin, a small hole, and attaching a satellite tag that stayed on for I don't remember how many months it was. And I thought, this is just so cruel and so mean to the sharks. As it turned out, there was mortality of 1 shark, and it's actually given super interesting scientific data. What you're looking at is every color is a different animal. And if you look at the right side of your screen, halfway down Baja, that's Guadalupe Island. And if you look up the screen to the yellow area, that is the Farallon Islands up by San Francisco, and Año Nuevo. Those are the 3 areas that the sharks congregate. And on the left of your screen, you are seeing what's called SOFA, what we call SOFA, known as the Mid-Ocean Cafe. And so what the sharks do is, of all, we think there's probably 600-700 sharks in total around Guadalupe. And there's 2-3 that we believe are resident there year round. Every year, 10, maybe 15 sharks go, I don't want to go swim all the way out in the open ocean, and they hang around for the winter. But all the other sharks from all 3 main areas gather out in this shared offshore foraging area. And it's quite interesting. They're not there to breed. We don't believe they're there to breed. This area is extremely rich in nutrients. There's, you've got sperm whales there, you've got squid, tuna, probably giant squid. You've got every kind of predator and bait fish. It's an extremely rich area. The sharks spend the winter there and then start heading back in for California. You do see the odd independently minded shark, like the green one, who just decided to go off and do his own thing and head for Hawaii. Next slide, please. What we're looking at here is the male population. Very interesting. The males gather. You can see all the clusters at Guadalupe and so on, and then they go out and they all gather at the or they cruise around at the offshore feeding area. Where interestingly, they don't dive anywhere near as deep as they do when they're in the shallows. Note that none of the sharks are going inshore into Baja California. Next slide, please. And these are the females. You can see that the female behavior is very, very different. Not anywhere near as tightly aggregated in the Mid-Ocean Cafe. And you can see how close they're going into shore. Yellow dots at the top, the pink dots, and they go into the Sea of Cortez. What happens is 18-month gestation period, or 19-month gestation period. The sharks get pregnant in October, November. They go out, they wander around, and then they come back into the inshore waters, which is what you're seeing inside the Sea of Cortez. They pup their sharks in April, May, June, somewhere around there. The new baby sharks, and we do see, we're not sure why, but we've been seeing baby sharks at Guadalupe Island that are 5 or 6 feet long. And I think that it's only divers who go, a 5 or 6 foot great white shark is super cute, but they really are. They're so cute, they're so little, they're so interesting to watch. But they have very soft, undeveloped teeth. So they are typically in the inshore waters where they can feed on crustaceans and so on that they can feed on without having the hard teeth. If you look down at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a red shark, that disappeared and was fished. And this is one of the great things that makes you feel badly, it just makes you sad for these animals, that these reproductively successful females, the big mamas, the big, huge sharks, they go into the Sea of Cortez and they disappear. And while it's illegal to fish for great white sharks, typically the fishermen in there take 4 to 5 sharks a year. We love these animals. It's just an amazing experience. But luckily, for those, I'm just looking at some of the comments, the white shark diving is not for everybody. We do have some other super big animal products as well. Next slide, please. The way that we dive with white sharks is this. We have surface cages, which is A, and we have submersible cages. Certified divers can do a minimum of 3 dives a day in the submersible cages and unlimited diving in the surface cages. So you get all the dives going. If you're coming all the way out there, a lot of people just have an amazing time on the surface. When you imagine you're standing on this on the back deck of the boat, cobalt blue water, and you watch a 15-foot great white shark swim 4 feet past you. And maybe if I can just close with just one more thought. Next slide, please. For those of you who know Dan Orr, who was the former CEO of Divers Alert Network, Dan is a friend of our company and helps us with safety. And he did not want to do this trip. And I went, Dan, man, can you trust me? Please come on the trip. If you don't like it, I will fully refund. He's now done 18 trips with us. He typically does 2 trips a year. This is a marine biologist who has been all over the world and done almost everything. And I don't know how many dives he has. He can't get enough of these animals. And this is a guy who said, I never wanted to go diving with great white sharks. Okay, let's move on to our next destination. So Socorro. Socorro is a misnomer. It's actually one of 4 islands known as the Revillagigedos. There is a quiz at the end of the presentation tonight when everyone has to pronounce Revillagigedo in order to be entered for the draw. No, I'm just kidding. Cabo San Lucas, tip of the Baja, California, which is where I am tonight. And it's a 1-day sail out to the islands. We've been doing these islands for a long time. And just like the white sharks, it is frickin' the magic these days. The diving has evolved and changed so much. And it's such a pleasure. You know, one of the things that made me very sad in British Columbia was watching the decline of the rockfish. It was watching all the sites slowly getting worse and worse and going from big clouds of fish to scared fish hiding in cracks. What's happened down south with the declaration of marine parks, biosphere reserves, and UNESCO sites, Socorro is a UNESCO site, is that it's become easier and easier to work in partnership with the government for protection of these areas. And I think that, combined with the Marine Mammal Protection Act, combined with moratoriums on fishing, combined with the pressure to stop shark finning, has resulted in just crazy good diving. When we first started doing Socorro, I would tell people it's about the mantas. And on 5 dive days, you'll probably get 1 day that's bad. You won't see anything. 2 dives that are okay. Maybe you'll see some octopus and some sharks. And you'll get 2 days that are really cool with the mantas. We now see mantas all the time, and we see way more animals than we used to see. The question, of course, is why go to Socorro? Why bother? Why go here instead of one of Petra's other amazing destinations? Next slide, please. If we could play the video. I hope this video, the script we put together on this helps explain why to dive Socorro.
We are back. We are finally back in the Socorro Islands after being away from this magic archipelago for some months. It seems as if all the local species living here have been waiting for us, questioning where have we been. We are happy to say that these islands have been untouched while we have been away. Sharks have been all around. We've seen hammerheads cruising in big schools at the canyon in San Benedicto. And the silvertips, Galapagos and silkies have been with us on almost every dive. When we thought we had wrapped up all of our shark encounters, we were lucky to share a moment with 2 whale sharks in Roca Partida. On our last day, one of them visited our boat, the perfect chance for an early morning snorkel and making it the best way to say goodbye to this very special trip. We've been delighted to swim with the playful local bottlenose dolphins, which we saw on every island we visited. And of course, the stars of this magical place, the ones that so many people travel far from home to experience swimming with them, the giant oceanic mantas. We have literally seen them on every single dive, and they have brought some incredible moments for our divers that will remain in their memories for the rest of their life. It has been the best possible way to restart our favorite adventure. We know that things have changed, and we are very thoughtful about all the COVID protocols in order to provide you with not only the experience of a lifetime, but to keep you safe and sound on our boats. We are very much looking forward to diving here this season and enjoying all the incredible moments that we are very sure are about to come.
So the thing about the mantas, there's mantas all over the world. There's many places you can go to see them, but our mantas are full of love. It's another really emotional experience. And you'll hear me talking about emotion tonight because that's really one of the things that makes these destinations so special. These mantas, pelagic open ocean mantas, there we go. I've got a screen now. Choose to interact with us. And I'm not talking about mantas that just swim past you and, oh, look, there's a manta. These mantas, if you have an open heart, and you're calm and tranquil in the water, much like you are with a dog. If you are all excited and chasing after a dog, it's not going to come up to you and rub up against you to be petted. And it's the same with the mantas. If you're calm and open to them, they may swim up and they look you in the eye, and there's a connection. It's way more of a connection than the great white sharks. For some reason, it's a yet another emotional interaction, and they will stay with you. I've had so many encounters where mantas will swim around in a circle, come back, go on top of me and just wait, go underneath of me and wait, and will come head to head with you, look at you, and then they want you to swim around and to swim on top of them. You can't touch the mantas anymore. It's much like going to Africa and you're on safari and there's elephants, and the elephants come over and walk beside you. It's crazy. Interestingly, with our other company, Baja Expeditions, that was is where they first discovered that the devilfish, you notice they have the horns. This is why they were called devilfish. People thought that they were vicious animals because when the fishermen caught them, they thrashed and went crazy in the nets, as you would expect. And it's the first with Baja Expeditions, is the first place that people realized at a dive site called El Bajo in the Sea of Cortez with Tim Means Kids and Stan Waterman, that the mantas were friendly. And in those days, they rode the mantas. And if you can imagine, they had Stan and kids riding on top of the mantas, holding on to them. Those days are gone. That's not appropriate behavior. But there's high intelligence there. Next slide, please. The mantas have the largest brain to body mass ratio of any fish. They're the only fish that we're aware of so far, not marine mammals, but fish, that has self-awareness. Are we able to click to the next one?
Yes, this is a video. Does you not see this video?
No, it's okay. If you're playing that video, that's great. This is a work with a woman named Chili Ara, who is been working with a manta in captivity with a mirror in a tank, and the manta comes and looks at itself in the mirror. It lifts its pectoral fins and shows parts of itself that it can't see. And she's very convinced that there is self-awareness. She's also discovered and proved conclusively that they can change the gradient of the coloration on the back of the mantas. It can go from light gray to dark gray. Next slide, please. There we go. Okay, so there's more to see at Socorro now than mantas. 10 species of sharks. 10 years ago, the bottlenose dolphins, the pelagic wild bottlenose dolphins started swimming up to us. We used to sometimes see them off in the distance, and we'd see them in the bow of the boats. We now have dolphin encounters on every trip, sometimes on multiple days. And it's just one pod of dolphins, and they come up, and I picked a fairly calm picture of the dolphin. We've got other pictures where they're resting their pectoral fins on people's chests and on their arms. The behavior is evolving rapidly. For those who were at Socorro 10 years ago, you probably didn't see this. If you were at Socorro this November, it's been crazy. Okay, so I wanted to tell you about one more set of iconic animals, and that is the gray whales of San Ignacio Lagoon. The gray whales are extinct in most parts of the world. We're really lucky in BC because we see them in the kelp. We see them along the shoreline. The North Atlantic gray whales, extinct. Mediterranean, extinct. Baltic, extinct. Western Pacific, almost extinct. There's 30 to 50 animals. The whalers wiped them out in the 19th century. The Eastern Pacific animals managed to escape extinction, and the population has rebounded to 19,000 animals. These animals only breed and mate in 3 lagoons in Baja California. The main lagoon is San Ignacio. And that is where Baja Expeditions has been operating for 27 years. This will be year 28. And I know that I keep talking about iconic animals. I know that I keep on talking about emotion and how these animals interact. But I would really, really hope that there's a way to play this video. And if there isn't, please allow us to send it to you, because you're not going to believe what you see. Gray whales are shy and reticent. They don't approach people. They keep on their own. When they come into the lagoon, their behavior changes, only in the lagoon. And they seek out interaction from humans.
Belly scratch. Whoop, roll up. Hey! It's here. Whoop, it's coming up again. Here we go.
What you're seeing in the video is people in super pangas leaning over the side of the boat with gray whales pushing up against their hands, and people stroking the whales, kissing the whales, reaching inside their mouth and stroking inside their mouth. Mamas taking their calves, pushing their calves up against the side of the boat. It's absolutely, it's really hard to describe. We have one of our liveaboards there. The Gallant Lady will be there. These trips are out of Cabo. They're fly-in trips by a private chartered Cessna Caravan aircraft, and we have a glamping experience.
There is this one place in the world, a place where magic happens and we, the humans, become witnesses of what it means and feels to connect with nature like nowhere else in the world.
The feeling I had is a lot of peace and happiness.
Join Nautilus Liveaboards and Baja Expeditions for a life-changing experience.
Also forgiveness.
Meet the world-famous friendly gray whales of the lagoons of Baja in Mexico. These large mammals willingly approach our pangas, often with their babies, to get their massive bodies stroked, caressed, or even kissed. We invite all nature lovers to witness this unique behavior for themselves. The whales will happily soak up all the love and affection they can get from us, but will otherwise turn away and disappear after a minute or so if we don't interact with them. The gray whales of Baja, Mexico will find their way into your hearts.
What I could do is maybe I'll just work my way down the questions here. So, are you worried about spectators taking their arms out of the cage with the GoPro cameras in their feeble hands? It would be foolhardy to stick your hand or your camera outside of the cage. It's also illegal in Mexico. Any accidents occurred in the past with your divers? Need a little bit more information on what you mean by accidents. We've been doing this for 20 years, staged hundreds of thousands of dives. We had people get compression sickness, and so on. Yes, we had people break bones or get cuts. Yes, I'm not sure if that's what we're referring to, but it's hopefully that answers that question. Do we work with any research organization to identify and track the sharks? Yes, you bet. We work with all of the scientists that are studying them. We host them on board. We provide grants. We work very closely with Nicole Maysby, who runs the shark identification program. It is part of our responsibility to give back on supporting conservation and science. I'm not going to address the question on the adult divers. When you're baiting the sharks and then pulling the food away, we do it differently now than we used to, and this is the park regulation that we don't agree with. It doesn't take very much tuna in the water. It's tuna indigenous to the islands. It does not take very much tuna to, the sensory organs on the sharks are so highly tuned that they can just take a little bit of scent of blood in the water, or of meat in the water. However, what we used to do was put a little bit of tuna in a burlap sack, have the burlap sack off the edge of the boat, and that's all it would take. And then the park made us go to drop bait, and now they have us throw the bait, but we're not supposed to let the shark take any of the bait. We have to do what the park says. I don't agree with it, but it's what it is. Any problems with Mexico government and the U.S.? Not sure if that's to politics or to the COVID virus. We have a great video on the COVID virus at the end of the presentation. We're very thoughtful in what we do with virus protection. We are allowed to operate again. We were shut down for 7 months, and we have 60 pages of protocol. I've got new crew board in one of the boats tomorrow, and we spent half a day to do just in refresher training on COVID protocols. Masks are mandatory on the boats in public spaces. We sanitize, we test, we do temperature checks. The crew are wearing face shields. It's I'm not sure if that's what the question was.
We are back. And we are back better. We are back stronger. We are back the safest way possible under the circumstances of the current COVID-19 crisis. The events of the past month have hit all of us very hard, but we at Nautilus Liveaboards believe that we have a responsibility to continue our mission. We owe it to just about everyone. You, our dear guests, who have trusted us for year after year. You, our dear staff, who is giving it all every single trip because the ocean is where you belong. And last but not least, you, our beloved animals in the sea, who depend on our support in the constant struggle against illegal fishing. Rebooting our operation after the needed full stop was a Hercules task which needed all hands available. Countless hours went into the redesigning and rethinking of our approach to diving and living. A long list of new hygiene protocols, pre-trip checklists and medical assessments have been put into place, which needed careful planning and crew training prior to their implementation. It is time to face the new reality. Yes, things have changed. And yet, at the same time, things have not changed. This became very clear on our maiden voyage aboard the Bellamy into the Sea of Cortez after the lockdown.
Absolutely gorgeous. Great, it circled us for like 20 minutes. It was amazing.
Strict sanitation and hygiene protocols have been implemented in all areas of the crew's daily routine. We strongly encourage guests to wear face masks, but we don't force them to. We ensure social distancing as much as possible. All of this is new and takes some getting used to at first. After all, none of us should take this threat lightly. However, after our first dives, it became immediately clear that none of these changes had any significant impact on the main reason why people want to be out at sea with us. We felt alive again after months of worrying and being locked away at home. We could forget about the world's trouble for a week. We were allowed to be happy again. Being able to get back in the water again with all of these fantastic animals showed us that all of our effort and our customers' faith in us was worth it.
It's our first trip back in a while. This COVID thing has been kind of crazy, you know, but the crew here has been outstanding with their PPE, you know, with the personal protective equipment, and I wouldn't hesitate. If you've got a chance to do it, you got to come out and do it, because at some point we got to get on with it. And I think everybody needs to come and check this out. You know, you've been home too long and it's time to get back in the water.
I think that the crew on the Bellamy, they've just really, I think, made diving possible the way that they've handled everything.
6 o'clock in the morning, before I even got going, they were already up here wiping down the handrails, making sure everything was sanitized. Bathrooms, doorknobs, everything was sanitized. So kudos to those guys, and y'all did a great job.
And I was stretching out like this, and I was looking around, and the sun was going down. It was so peaceful, and it just occurred to me that there is no place in the world that I would rather be than right there, right then, right now, on the boat in this beautiful Sea of Cortez. It's just so peaceful, and all the noise that you hear back home with the TV constantly and the news and the updates. Without hearing that, everything's just seems to go back to normal, and it's relaxing. It's really nice.
I feel much safer out on the water than I do in the middle of a big city. So this is definitely the place to be right now.
Wearing a mask, respecting people's personal space, and washing hands frequently was a little price to pay for the rewards that awaited us in the wilderness of the open ocean. Life is and has always been about changes and challenges. That is the very nature of life. We sincerely hope to welcome you back aboard very soon. Be assured that we will do everything humanly possible to safely continue our mission. We will not stop chasing our dream.
Next question, how many divers per cage and how many cages at one time? The boat, we have 3 different boats we use at Guadalupe Island. One boat takes 19 people. It's the formerly from Cocos. It has 2 submersibles and 1 surface cage. Typically, 3 divers, 4 submersible cage side. And the question of how many cages. So the big boat, the Bellamy, which is 147 feet, has 3 submersible cages and 2 surface cages. The point is that we put as many cages as we need on board so that people can dive as much as they want to do. We talk about what we're doing with COVID safety for 2021. Yeah, it's actually, I think we've probably addressed most of this. Maybe if I can have additional questions on COVID so I know how to do it. Travel availability. Well, as Canadians right now, it's difficult because when you come back, you have a 2-week quarantine. and that's what it is. If you're working from home, if you can take the time, then it's a great time to travel. There are flights into Cabo. I feel safe when I'm flying. I just flew in the day before yesterday. I shaved off my beard. I wear an N95 mask. YVR Airport is very good on social distancing. And I'm just really careful on the airplane, and I stay in a trusted hotel. And we use private transfers, all of which we make sure all of that information is available to our guests. And we find that when people are on the boats, it's a safe cocoon. We've been back operating. Our first boat started up in July. We've had all 4 of the big boats operating since November 13th. We've had 2 outbreaks of COVID in that time. We've had a total of, from July to now, we've had a total of 3 guests and 5 crew get sick in those 2 outbreaks. So you'll find, dealing with me, just straight talk, just give you the numbers and exactly what's going on. Mexico has never closed. Despite what it said in the media, I flew down here every month all through the crisis. It's never closed. No PCR test is required. But what we are asking now is people to do at least a rapid test, either in Canada before you leave or down here in Mexico. We can help people arrange. It's just one more layer of safety. Sorry to bring this up, but what about the shark who got stuck in the cage and apparently died? From what I recall, it was due to the cages not being upgraded or updated. No, please don't feel badly for bringing it up. I welcome all questions. There was 4 cage breaches last year. We had one guy who went after us. We had one of them. We had the one that went viral, and that was the work of the influencer. We don't know if the shark died or survived. We have guests who have photos of what we believe is that shark later that day. The anger and the hysteria over it was really unfair. Our cages were in full compliance with all the regulations. And in fact, our cages are in compliance with the new regulations that aren't even in effect. They weren't in effect this year yet. Hopefully next year, we helped write the regulations. So social media hysteria, I would be happy to answer specific questions on that. Of course, it's incredibly sad. We all felt terrible. Not sure what else to say on that. Other questions? We've got video frozen. And any more questions? Scrolling down. Do we offer any tech diving trips? Yes, you bet. Socorro does not allow deco diving, and they have a restriction on 130 feet. However, we have a total of 20 boats between La Paz and Cabo San Lucas. We've got a bunch of super pangas. We've got a sailboat catamaran. We've got a 55-foot California dive boat. Cia Cortez, Cabo, west coast of Baja. Yes, we can do deep diving. We can do tech. Socorro, you can still bring doubles and dive on a rebreather. I think we were one of the first boats to go rebreathers. We've been diving nitrox since 1996. And I first got checked out on a rebreather in 2001. We fully support rebreathers. What time of year, gray whales? February, March. Perfect trip for spring break. Last week of February until the 3rd week of March. And we actually do a program for families. Our camp is set up with one section for adults and one section that's for families, and then the shared section in the middle. It's and we do 50% discount for kids and teens to try and make it more affordable for families. And this is a nice camp. It's got hot tubs and fire pit, and it's got a clubhouse for open to everyone. It's got an adult tent that's for the bar and so on. What are divers wearing gloves when they are touching the whales? No. We're actually still discussing with the park what's going to happen this year. The point is that the gloves might injure the whales, and we're thinking in terms of COVID precautions. We sure as heck don't want to be the guys that give a whale COVID. So what we're going to be doing is people are going to be wearing masks around the whales, we just don't know, sanitizing their hands, rinsing their hands in the salt water. There will be no kissing and no touching their mouth. It's going to be stroking and petting only this year. Can divers participate in shark research? Yeah, we do citizen science. What's the minimum dives needed? There is no. We cater to divers of all experience levels. We separate, we cater to very experienced divers. We call them sharks. They go in the water first. They don't have to go with the dive master. And they're people who are very self-reliant, experienced, and physically fit. We have a lot of divers who want to have a dive master with them, critter pointing. And we get people who have not very many dives, as long as they've got their buoyancy under control, and we will put them with a dive master who's going to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Is there any opportunities during the trip to snorkel outside of any of the cages? Not anymore. In the old days, we were allowed to dive outside of the cages. It's strictly illegal now. There's one guy who's doing it if you pay him lots of money. Amos Newcomb, but it is illegal, and the Mexicans are trying, the Mexican authorities would love to throw anybody in jail who tries this. Do you have varying lengths of trip for the great whites in Socorro? Great whites, no. We have found that a 6-day, 5-night trip is the perfect length. That gives 3 full days in the cages. That seems to be, we've tried longer trips and shorter trips, and that's always been the sweet spot. Socorro, yeah, we're all over the place. We have anything from 8 nights to 15 nights. Do you have cabins for single divers? Yes. Single divers, it's 2 ways. If you want to have shared accommodation, we arrange same-sex roommate. We do a 25% surcharge for single occupancy if the boat's full. If the boat's not full, then we're not going to charge you for the single occupancy. We're trying to keep it as reasonable as possible during the time of the virus. We did the rebreather trip in Socorro with Kurt Bruce. Okay, good. Thank you, Diane. I saw Bruce last summer. Is Nautilus allowed to moor inside the Cabo Pulmo Park so the divers can get to the good sites now? No, that is the, we have to have permits on the big boats, but there's the inside zone and the outside zone, and they will not allow a boat, I forget what the measurement is, I think it's 38 feet. You cannot be in the zone. And that's been the problem with Cabo Pulmo. Frankly, Pulmo is a site where people come and either they have best dives of their trip and they love it and they see the bull sharks, or they go, it's either bumpy, it's cloudy, or the park wardens, it's very, very, very controlling. This is the first year we've had Cabo Pulmo on offer on our Sea of Cortez trips, and it's a mixed bag. People really, really want to see it, but often because of the problems of using, we have to use the local service providers because of all the problems. It's sort of a, there's a lot of other diving to do in the Sea of Cortez. Do we do the hammer? Yes, absolutely. We have a dive center in Cabo and 3 boats in Cabo. We do the hammerhead dive at Gordo Banks. Diving with sea lions. Oh, Sandra, thank you very much. We always do our best.
Thank you, Mike, for this enticing presentation. I think all of us are ready to pack our bags and get on to Mexico and experience one of these intriguing destinations and liveaboards. And with that, before we go to have some fun with our draw tonight, I wanted to take a moment to point you to our website. It's a new website. I don't know if any of you have had some experiences with it. And there is the option for live availability. So I'm actually going to go to the website right now and going to show you how to do that. So you scroll down a little bit, there's a liveaboard menu item. And you can, with this rolling globe, actually determine which country you would like to look at. So if I do Mexico and I filter the liveaboards by Mexico and I scroll down, here are all the boats that we represent in Mexico. Now I can also go, and this check availability menu item is available right from before I filter by country. And I can go to Guadalupe and say maybe between now and February, actually that won't work because there is nobody in Guadalupe right now. So let's pick Socorro between December, and I'm looking for a single, let's say I'm looking for a single female space. but I can also look for, let's say, 2 spaces, and then the gender option does not show up. I'm going to search trips. And here we go. There's availability on the Nautilus Undersea in a few days, on the Nautilus Bel-Ami. Okay, we won't go further. And you can see pricing here as well and the availability. Or if we were not to go and search for the trips, and let me just go back. And let's say I bring up the Nautilus Explorer. And right here on the page for the Nautilus Explorer, I can check current availability. And here we go. And this goes all the way to as long as most boats have their availability. So I encourage you to go and utilize that tool. There is a booking request option here, which comes to us, and then we can help you arrange this trip. It's not a payment option, so it is an inquiry, and we will be holding the space. So you're not immediately hooked into it, and we will connect with you when you go this route. And getting back to our presentation now. All right, let's have some fun with our draw. 3 nights in San Ignacio and 5 nights in Guadalupe. I have everyone's name on a screen and a random number generator so that I can generate a proper draw. So let's see if that works. I am not sure if you can see my screen, but I'm going to do this draw. The first trip that Mike has offered to give away is 3 nights in San Ignacio, which is the Gray Whales. It's a camping or glamping trip. This is not a dive trip, so you'll be in the pangas with and seeing the great whales there. So I have a number generator from 1 to 73 because I have 73 names on here. Obviously, there isn't 73 people in this presentation, but I'm just going to generate this. And if your name is called, maybe answer in the chat. And I also have Irene monitoring this. So I'm going to generate number 42. Would be Lori Groves. Lori, are you still on this presentation?
Woohoo! Congratulations, Lori.
All right, Lori, you'll be going to San Ignacio in February or March, I would assume. So the next one would be a 5-night Guadalupe trip. And the details of when and how, what kind of cabin and all of that, we will figure out with you later, but let me just do this one more time. Number 31 would be Debbie Zilich. She's still there, Debbie? Maybe also go into the chat.
Petra, 31 is Gary Nataros.
Nope. Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. This is the wrong. Gary Nataros. Thank you very much for all participants. Thank you for joining us tonight. And again, sorry for all the technical difficulties. In probably about a week, you will be receiving another invitation. Our next Traveling Thursday is in 2 weeks on Thursday, December 17th, and we'll be presenting at Chastenay as well as Jade Mountain in St. Lucia. Any questions, comments, or bookings, you can always email diving@flyindsea.com or call us toll-free 888-995-3483. Thank you very much. Good night.